Welcome to Wrasslin Raw!
All right, you're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when Raw became war and Attitude ruled. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Get that mic out of my face. It's my mic. I own that mic.
Joe Giammatteo.
I must say, this show is going to help my nausea. It's going to make me feel a lot better.
I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history, one episode of Raw is War at a time. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on April 27th, 1998. This Raw was recorded at the Hampton Coliseum in Hampton, Virginia, and features Jim Ross, Jerry the King Lawler, and Michael Cole on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then, let's get into it. Last night at Unforgiven, Vince McMahon guaranteed a catastrophe. And it came in a self-fulfilling prophecy, as Vince had a cervical collar applied directly to the neck. That was right after Stone Cold Steve Austin applied a steel chair directly to Vince McMahon's forehead. It was a great scene. After the proper intro, JR tickled our taints right off the bat. Is this the night that Vince McMahon fires Stone Cold Steve Austin? And in a stunning, complete reversal of character, D-Generation X now cares about something, namely one-upping the competition. We got a video package of one of the all-time classic moments here, DX geared up in fatigues and complimented with visual dick jokes in order to blow WCW out of the water. And as cheesy and entertaining as that was, I fucking loved that final scene of Triple H standing in the passenger seat of the assault Jeep, waving the George Patton baton around as they took off. And that's it for the opening segment. And I'm still not sure if Vince McMahon will fire Stone Cold or not. I'm really concerned about that. I do know, however, that I fondly remember watching this DX Army segment live, and I'm going to be staying tuned in, for now at least, to see where this goes. Joe, what do you think about how we started the evening here?
Yeah, this is a legendary segment here with DX. They constantly show this on any type of callback to the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars, and this was very well put together, too, I have to say. It is funny. It's still funny to this day. Chyna looks like a total badass ready for combat. She was just so underappreciated back then because she just fits in here so well with these guys, and it makes even more sense now that X-Pac is there, because this guy just got fired from WCW 3 weeks ago. So it makes even more sense now with the timing. So yeah, this was a great way to kick off the show.
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. This is definitely something I remember watching, and Joe, as you mentioned, any time the Monday Night Wars are even briefly mentioned, this scene is shown, mostly because a lot of people see this as the real turning point. We heard just a couple weeks ago, finally the 83 weeks have ended, and it looks like things are starting to fall WWF's way. So fantastic stuff here. I liked Ass Man had that bazooka between his legs, and Triple H tells him at ease, and then he lowers the bazooka. Just juvenile shit that's absolutely hilarious. Triple H doing his best General Patton impersonation, both in the speech and when he jumps in that old World War II Willys Jeep that they drive away in slowly. Everything about this worked. I loved it.
It's like they watched both Patton and Stripes before they...
Yes. Yes. I got definite Stripes vibes off of this. Yeah. My favorite part was the Road Dogg jacking off the barrel of his AK-47. All right. After that, we went into our first match of the night. Ken Shamrock and Owen Hart versus The Nation, Mark Henry and The Rock, with D'Lo and Kama at the outside, ends in a no contest in 1 minute and 45 seconds. So right off the bat here, I just wanted to share with you guys a little tidbit that I learned. I guess after The Rock takes over, it is no longer the Nation of Domination. It is officially considered just The Nation.
Interesting.
That may be old news to some of our listeners. I'm not sure, but
yeah, I didn't know.
I learned this just as I was doing my notes and research for this episode. So,
well, those know-it-all listeners can go fuck themselves. I didn't know it.
Yeah, nitpicking dickbags. So anyway, getting back into the match, I thought Owen Hart and Ken Shamrock together looked pretty decent. The crowd also really responded to the Nation whenever they came out, so much so that they cut the music so the mics could pick up the Rocky Sucks chant. Things got swerved pretty damn fast, though, as Owen finally got to dish out a nut shot of his own instead of just taking one for once. But it was to his partner, Ken Shamrock, unfortunately. He then took Ken out with a great-looking enziguri before the Nation piled into the ring. We got a great view of a splash on Shamrock from Mark Henry. That was a fantastic visual. There was a nice piece where they assaulted Shamrock's leg with a chair, and then Owen put on the sharpshooter. Steve Blackman and then Farouk ran in. Shamrock did a really great job of selling the breaking bone. My God, we heard the bone snap. The ring, flooded with officials. I did notice that Dave Hebner was there. He left the men's room just long enough to come out and be useless. That was about the same time that Owen Hart jumped back onto Ken Shamrock and bit his fucking ear off.
We just had Mike Tyson here a couple months ago.
We got a replay of the swerve after a little break there. That was worked really well. They timed that amazingly. This whole thing was timed beautifully. And as everyone was leaving the ring, we got a great view of Owen looking like all disheveled with blood pouring down his lips and his chin as the Nation was exiting the ring area. And it broke to another commercial there, so we'll pause it here. So, we mostly knew this was coming. We didn't know when exactly, but knowing that this was coming didn't hurt this for me at all. I thought the double cross was worked perfectly. I thought this had all of the right pieces working for it. A lot of great visuals. JR was great. And to give credit where credit is due, Michael Cole did a really great job selling this too. But man, I'm just excited to have everyone freshened up a little bit. Joe, what'd you think of the opening match here?
Well, to clarify, we knew it was coming only because it's 2024 right now.
Right.
I thought this was very well done because many times they'll tease these types of turns like they did with The Rock and Farouk. They were teasing it for weeks. This, they didn't really tease very much. Like, this was just out of nowhere, and what a great place to put it. Right on the top of the show. This is a hot start to the show with Owen doing this heel turn, and also they Pillmanize Ken Shamrock and snap the bones in his ankle, which he obviously needs to take some time off. So
yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Good timing there too. I'm assuming that's what's happening. So this was extremely well done. And enough is enough, right?
Yeah. It is time for a change. I do think that.
And is this the first time The Rock has used the finally The Rock has come back?
I think we've heard it once before, or once or twice before, yeah.
Because I noticed he started out with that too, which was cool to hear. Obviously, not like he will later with getting the crowd really, really fired up.
Different
for it.
reaction, for sure.
Yeah, but that was cool to see too.
To start off, I know there's a bunch of allegations flying around about Vince in present day today, but I saw a sign on the hard camera right as the match was starting that had me wondering. It said Vince raped China.
Jeez.
And I was thinking, Jesus
Christ.
Way to go,
like,
cock.
one, how did that get by the sign checkers or whatever, especially being on the hard camera there? But I didn't see it later, so I do think someone found it.
It got past USA Network and Peacock all these years later.
That was interesting. But more interesting than a off-color sign is this turn, because, Joe, you said here in 2024, we knew this was coming at some point. And when I saw all the players here, I wondered if it was happening right now, and I was very happy that it was. Owen Hart, this turn was good. It was perfect timing. We give Shamrock this little bit of time off that he needs, and we finally liven up Owen Hart a little bit. and he dishes out some humiliation. Very happy to see that, and I was even more happy when he bit the ear of Shamrock, and JR just went crazy. This is absolutely deplorable. I mean, he busted out the thesaurus for this one. Disgusting. It's heinous. He was just going off, and great. I loved it, and now we have the real Blackheart in the nation, so I'm pumped for that.
Yeah, good call there. We've had that name Blackheart around for a while, and it has had no meaning. And that was with Owen as a babyface. So now that he's joining the nation, maybe we're going to get some freshening up of Blackheart here. Finally, it's going to make sense.
Yeah, and it makes sense too, like even behind the scenes. Owen was great in the Hart Foundation faction, and that doesn't exist anymore. So putting him in this faction probably is going to do good things for him.
Yeah. Do you think that maybe Owen Hart is just better off as a heel? And that
I do, yeah, absolutely.
Trying to make him a babyface is just going to be a waste of time?
Yeah, like I've said before, I think they had a chance to do something with him as an Austin-type babyface, but they didn't go that route.
Yeah.
But I do think he's just a natural heel. His whiny voice helps lend himself to that.
Plus, he's like a legendary ribber pissing people off. So
I think he's a heel all day long, and that's where he belongs.
All right, so we came back from commercial to footage of Blackman and Farouk carrying Shamrock out. And by God, Shamrock looked like he had been hit by a fucking train.
He's going to need to get work done.
Yeah, his eye was all swollen up there.
Yeah, swollen. He had a missing tooth. He did show up with a missing tooth, but his ear was bloody. Legit just looked like he got jumped by a bunch of guys. He looked the part very well. After that, the top of the entryway was set up for the Love Shack with Dude Love. And by God, these lovely ladies with the duder were hot.
It's no wonder that Dude's weakness is the chicks.
Yeah. That chick on the right of the screen, man.
Yeah.
Blew Sable out of the water any day of the week.
Yes.
I think the cameraman agrees with you.
Yes. Yeah. I loved Dude Love's recap of what happened at Unforgiven, especially when he was in his hotel room afterwards and was forced to tell his groupies that they wouldn't get a night of love because the dude just needed to be held. The bottom line here, though, is that the dude has some sour grapes. He wants Stone Cold Steve Austin fired. He wants the title stripped from Austin. And he wants that title given to Dude Love. In fact, really, Dude just wants the title, most of all. And I popped when Dude made sure to do the Charleston there. I ended up having to look it up. That's the name of the hands on the knees dance thing he does. I never knew that was the Charleston, but that's the Charleston.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I love the fact that that's what it is that he's doing.
I felt like we learned that in like third grade music class or something.
I am sure that I would have done my best to forget that over the past 32 years. After that, he did leave with those ridiculously hot groupies, by the way, so life can't be that bad for Dude. We then got more footage of DX assaulting WCW earlier with a suspiciously edited shot of the cannon being fired. I don't think it was really fired, but Try was there trying to play up the crowd, waiting in line to enter the WCW event. They ended up going through the crowd on foot. China didn't look too happy about that, but they finally did find someone there willing to say that WCW sucks. And that was it for this segment. The Love Shack was especially entertaining here. Ryan, what'd you have on this segment?
Yes. Yeah, the Love Shack segment, it delivered in the visual
the TNA
department
category.
And in the inflatable chair department. Those were back. I was glad to see that. And that stupid micro bus cutout entrance, that was back. I got to give whatever prop guy back there sets this stuff up, though, some props for turning that lava lamp on early to make sure it was good and flowing by the time this segment started. Because anyone that has ever turned one of those on knows it could take some time before that thing starts moving like it was. So good job there. Dude did a good job of just playing a jackass here, saying he won and he kicked Stone Cold's ass. Not like the match was just handed to him. He said the dude's tank was on empty, and I wondered, Shamrock just passed him on the ramp. Maybe he could have asked him for a top off. But no, he's going to give Austin some options here. The dude wants option 3, though, where he's just given the belt, and the crowd doesn't like that. I think Dude's doing a fantastic job here of playing up the heel, even though it's maybe not our favorite iteration of Mick. He still does a good job with it. And DX continuing with this iconic segment. That little shot that we saw that was so clearly edited was hilarious. I laughed at that. But they did have a bit of trouble finding someone to talk poorly about WCW from these fans that were waiting to go see a WCW show. So that's not huge, but still pretty hilarious, though. This thing still works to this day.
Yeah, dude loves a pussy. He's a little bitch for having an empty gas tank for these girls. Surely he could have had some kind of fumes going that he could have run on.
We don't have Blue Chew as a sponsor, but maybe we could.
Yeah, he definitely could have used it for this time period. And DX, I feel like they missed out on a chance to joke about shooting blanks after that cannon fired there. But this was, again, it was good. It was, now that we are in election season here in the U.S., this kind of gave me like protester vibes a little bit with them out in the streets like that. So again, this whole thing is, so far, this is very well done. Just very well put together.
You've got me thinking. I know, obviously, we're not going to get Blue Chew as a sponsor, but maybe we can get one of those fucked up, like, gas station boner pill companies to give us a sponsorship.
Yeah, like Spanish Fly or...
Like, Tiger Powder or something.
Yeah.
Okay. The old gas station jamboree section.
That's more our jam. None of that highbrow Blue Chew shit. We need the crack den fucking gas station.
Yeah, gas station boner pill.
Chinese boner pills and Delta 27 THC.
Filled with rhino horn.
Little kratom on the side. All right. Let's go to our next match. The Headbangers versus Terry Funk and Too Cold Scorpio ends in a no contest in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. As entrances were happening, we got footage of Vince McMahon arriving with the Stooges backstage. Vince was sans neck brace there in the match. At one point, Too Cold and the Headbangers stood around waiting to catch Terry Funk. Then the Headbangers stood there waiting to catch Too Cold. And unfortunately, I don't have much else to add about this match. This got called because I guess someone at some point shoved referee Tim White around, but to me at least it didn't matter in the end because this just felt like an attempt at a spot fest. To be fair, it was not as blatant as some of the light heavyweights can get, but still, there it is. Ryan, what'd you think of this?
Yeah, this was way too short. I didn't hate it. It was certainly a spot fest. There was a point where we had 3 people catch Terry Funk. Not quite as bad as AEW modern day where they have like 16 people there to catch one person, but it was still blatant. But to be honest, I thought the little bit of action that we got was fairly solid. And if they were to start a bit of a program between these two teams, I wouldn't hate it only because we have so little going in the tag team division. And this wasn't terrible, but I thought the ending was. Someone bumped into Tim White, and that's enough to call this match. Like, just let this be another minute or two and actually allow these teams to work. But no, we had to shoehorn in a shitty finish. So the match wasn't great, but I wouldn't hate if we saw this again, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I didn't like it very much. I think 3/4 of the participants in this match, I think, have been deemed jobber of the week for us, right?
Yes, the Headbangers in all, and then, of course, Too Cold Scorpio.
Yeah, Terry Funk is the only one. But the Funks, I'll call them, Flash and Terry here, it almost seems like a desperate attempt to try to enhance the tag team division because they have a hot tag team team with the New Age Outlaws right now, and it seems like we need to inject something into this tag team division.
Yeah, we need a couple other teams for them to go against.
Yeah, so that's what it smells like to me, is that this Funk's tag team is just like a desperate attempt to like try to enhance the tag team division, but it's just not really working because it's just thrown together out of nowhere.
Yeah, one of the things that I thought while I was watching this is, man, it really sucks that we've got Too Cold Scorpio coming in and more or less just riding Terry Funk's coattails into this. No effort to develop him as a personality, as a character, as
right.
what would pass for a gimmick. He's just Terry Funk's sidekick wearing a Funk You shirt.
And they're not even doing like any hardcore stuff either, right, which Terry Funk is known for that, but they haven't really been doing it.
And so is Too Cold.
Yeah, Too Cold is too, to be fair. Well, hopefully things will change whenever we get closer to the Job Squad there, once Al Snow comes in, but we will see. Back at the WCW show, DX was polling the crowd to find out if anyone there had any of the free tickets that WCW used to hand out to fill up their arena crowds there. After that, we got a Cineburst rewind to Steve Austin pitching Dude Love off of a stand and onto the concrete last night at Unforgiven. By God, that one was rough to watch. He just takes that right to the hip, old Mick does. God damn. After that, we came back to the arena to a chorus of boos as Vince McMahon made his way down to the ring. The boos quickly became an Austin chant as Vince got on the mic. Apparently, Vince has a concussion and has been experiencing dizziness, even nausea. But his judgment is not compromised, and that is despite the fact that he won't be firing Stone Cold Steve Austin. In fact, Austin will be defending the title tonight against Goldust, and not just that, the official for that match is going to be trusted stooge Jerry Briscoe. Jerry came down, and Vince gave us the stipulation here that if Austin lays one finger on Jerry Briscoe, Austin will be fired, and he will have the title taken from him. Vince wrapped this up asking, would Goldust make a good champion? The answer is that anyone would be a better champion than the one we have now. We got footage then of DX being barred from driving that Jeep into the parking complex of the WCW venue. And that's where I'll pause this. I thought this was a great segment from Mr. McMahon.
Boomer sooner.
Yeah. Thick. It's thick on old Jerry there. This is the kind of authority figure that I love. We're not going to dick around and pretend like anyone is getting fired. We are just going to throw the gauntlet at Steve Austin and force him to fight and force him to win if he really wants it. It was also great to finally have a spotlight shown on Jerry Briscoe and just have his name put out there and get him into the angle officially. So Joe, what'd you have on this?
Yeah, well, with the DX invasion, again, one thing I think that is funny about this is that it's like broad daylight because they obviously filmed it earlier in the day, but it's almost like they want it to come across as it's live, but it's not. So that is the one thing that's a little funny about that. But yeah, seeing Mick Foley falling on concrete on his hip is not a good sight. I don't like seeing that. As the Cineburst rewind. Cineburst, my God, what a shitty gum that was.
Yes, it was.
Man.
The flavor crystals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Mr. McMahon is this guy. He's just so good on the mic. He's such an entertainer. Like, he just knows how to work a crowd and get their reaction. Just beautiful timing with everything. He's just such a dick. And it really just comes across well on screen and to a live crowd. He's really great.
And in person. Really?
Yeah. Goldust has been completely irrelevant as a contender for the title. But again, they can insert anyone into this feud between Mr. McMahon and Steve Austin, and it's going to work. Vince saying that thing at the end where anyone would be a better representative than who we have now, that's a great line to just get that crowd to just boo the living shit out of him. So this was a very good segment here with Mr. McMahon and Jerry Briscoe.
I couldn't agree anymore. Mr. McMahon, and they were very clear to introduce him as Mr. McMahon, not Vince McMahon, not Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Commentary kept on referring to him as Mr. McMahon now, so they definitely are taking an effort to make that character a thing now and not Vince McMahon. It's like they're separate people. And Vince did a fantastic job on the mic here when he says that, I know for a fact that Stone Cold was trying to take my head off. And the crowd just went crazy at just the words, he wanted to take my head off. Yeah, that's how much this crowd hates you. They go crazy over the thought of your head getting knocked off. Like, can you ask any more of your heel? Then Briscoe comes out here, the ultimate lackey, brown nose, yes man motherfucker, and the way that he talks to Vince about how he'll be an impartial ref. Yes, Mr. McMahon. And he seemed like a cartoon character in a good way. I thought that really worked. And then we see Stone Cold backstage, not happy, and he just smacks over this oddly placed chalkboard on an easy to tip over easel that was there. I thought that was good. And then this shot of DX trying to, quote unquote, break down the gate of this parking garage. This is maybe the most iconic scene, is them knocking on this door, because to be honest, it really is a big fuck you. They're right at their gates screaming, you guys are a bunch of cowards. Come out, open the door. Like, they're literally calling for Mr. Bischoff himself on the megaphone. This is the way to best your competitors. And I remember hearing Kevin Nash use this exact scene as the moment he knew that they were going to lose the Monday Night Wars. He said him and a few other guys kept on asking Bischoff, just let us open up the gates and we could have a little impromptu fight here and this will be great for both companies. And Bischoff just refused, and he said, I knew we were dead in the water. This is going to make us look terrible. And he was right about it.
Yeah, I remember watching it live too and thinking like this could be, like there could be some sort of interaction between the two. Yeah. Like that's how real it looked.
But the fact that they just closed the gates and didn't do anything just made WCW look bad.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of looking bad, Tennessee Lee.
Shame on you.
I had to take advantage of that. Was in the ring to breathlessly introduce our next match. Bradshaw defeats Double J Jeff Jarrett with Tennessee Lee by disqualification in 1 minute and 15 seconds. Bradshaw still pisses me off because he is a beast. His entrance music has a great chugging metal riff. I love hearing it.
It is an awesome song.
But he comes out looking like fucking Yosemite Sam, and it just ruins it.
None of it makes any sense. Like, none of it goes well together. The music...
Not even the bull rope?
The guy himself and the fucking outfit. Like, it's terrible.
Yeah, the assless chaps. Yep.
Yeah.
Michael Cole named the clothesline from hell for us.
Nice.
Yeah.
And that actually surprised me. I just assumed they kept calling it the lariat when he had like this whole cowboy thing going on. I thought they kept it. I thought they used clothesline from hell once he already became an acolyte.
That was what I just figured, but yeah.
Yeah, but no, they named it here. But then Club Kamikaze ran in to attack Bradshaw. That drew the DQ finish, and there was a fourth guy wearing a mask and suit this time. The mask got pulled off. He had to crawl over in the corner and put it back on so nobody could see him. I wondered if that might be Shinja. Wouldn't that be neat if that was Shinja? You remember Shinja?
I remember him.
Not to be confused with the Pokemon Shedinja.
I did not confuse those two.
Yeah, definitely didn't.
I was just seeing how fast your finger was on that censor button, Ryan.
I'll have to do that on the edit.
Taka Michinoku ran in to rescue Bradshaw. 4 men got ran off by one whose ass they have kicked already. And I'm left wondering just how entertaining the quirky odd couple pairing of Bradshaw and Taka is going to be in tag action. Blah. So, of course, as our resident asshole for Tennessee Lee, who did basically nothing here, Pennsylvania Joe, let's hear from you first.
That's not an odd couple, Tennessee Lee and Jeff Jarrett. They are a fantastic
couple made in heaven.
Couple, yeah. And again, like, I have to remind you, you'd want Tennessee Lee in your corner, Bartlett.
Yep.
If someone's attacking you, he can smash a guitar over their head. But again, Club Kamikaze, they look like midgets here going and attacking Bradshaw. They're so much smaller than him. Michael Cole says, why Bradshaw? And I'm wondering the same fucking thing. I don't understand this, where they're going with it. Nobody knows. Maybe we'll find out. I don't know. But we know they have beef with Taka. We already knew that. But Taka's a jobber now. He's been declared a jobber. So nobody cares.
But why Bradshaw?
But yeah, the fourth guy, JR did tease something earlier on the 1-800 or 1-900 Shameless about a new manager coming to the WWF. So maybe this is who he was talking about. I don't know.
Things keep getting worse for Double J's entrance. First, he lost the Tennessee Stud. Now, all of his gimmick lights are gone. No pants, no jacket, no hat, nothing. Yeah. Very sad. Hopefully, Tennessee Lee isn't next. Then Bradshaw, I'm going to point out, just like you did, Bradshaw's music is kicking, but he's also still kicking in those ridiculous assless chaps, so it doesn't really help him coming out to good music. And the action, as it started, was pretty decent. They had the David and Goliath thing going on here with Bradshaw playing up his strength, but then before anything could get started, Club Kamikaze interrupts, and it's Bradshaw again, and yes, Michael Cole, why? Why Bradshaw? And then Michael Cole says, I can understand Taka, they're all from Japan. I'm not sure why you could only feud with people from your own country, but that was something Michael Cole said. But Taka, even though he didn't have the numbers on his side, chase off the rest of Team Club Kamikaze. So I'm scratching my head over this pairing, Taka and Bradshaw, and I almost feel, as we've all talked about how small Club Kamikaze is compared to Bradshaw, is this team-up going to be a handicap? Is it going to be Taka and Bradshaw versus all three members of Club Kamikaze? That's what I think, just based on the size, what would probably end up happening.
Yeah. The visual of Club Kamikaze attacking Bradshaw made me think of that funny statue that gets posted on the internet all the time. I think it's over in Ukraine somewhere, but it's like a bronze statue of a man in like a fighting pose, and there's just like children attacking him. Like one attached to his shin, one flying through the air, one hanging
that's
around
what it
his
looked
neck.
like. It looked like children attacking a full-grown adult.
Yeah. And as far as Double J losing the stud and losing the light up stuff, I wonder if maybe Tennessee Lee, much like other promoters of his stature, is just embezzling the shit out of all of the money that Double J makes.
Could be. Right down to the light gimmicks in his pants.
Yeah. Double J had to pawn the stud.
Where's
and the
the finder's fee?
Yeah. Taking his 10%.
Yeah.
He's earned it.
For Jenny Flowers alone, he earned it. All right, so next up, Kevin Oh My God Kelly was in the back to talk to Dude Love about Vince McMahon's decision to give Goldust a title shot. Dude Love was being very undude there, saying about McMahon, he wanted me to wear tie-dye, I wore tie-dye. He wanted me to beat Austin, I beat Austin. And overall, just very unhappy, as Dude Love then ran into Vince there in the concourse area. Dude laid into Vince at one point saying, that's not the way it was supposed to go down, which then sends McMahon flying off the handle, screaming at Kevin Kelly, smacking the microphone out of his hand. I own that microphone. I own that camera. Cut it off. Cut it off. And that was it for this segment. Some new developments there. I loved this almost breaking kayfabe with Dude Love. Ryan, what'd you think of this update?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I like seeing Duder unhappy about Goldust getting his shot at the belt before he does, and I loved the confrontation with McMahon and McMahon flipping out about it being his mic and his camera, and that was great. I loved it.
Yeah, I've been pretty critical about heel Dude Love. I'm not a big fan, but I liked this segment with Dude Love. He's pissed he's not getting this opportunity for a rematch, which I guess I like it because it just makes sense. He should be the guy who gets the opportunity, not Goldust. So it makes sense, and that's why it works for me, brother.
Yeah, agreed. What did not work for me, though, is our next match. The Disciples of Apocalypse with LOD 2000 defeat the New Age Outlaws with DX by pinfall in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Triple H, Chyna, and X-Pac came out first to introduce the Outlaws, and then the Outlaws came out on little mini scooters to make fun of DOA. I did like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
But that wasn't really needed. DOA is a joke to begin with, and that's only compounded by the fact that they needed to call LOD 2000 out with them for backup. God, I never realized it before, but LOD 2000's entrance music sounds like it's from a 1983 movie about video games. It's quite possibly one of the worst futuristic things they've done here. Way worse than Techno Team 2000.
Oh, boy.
Something else that I noticed and did not care for was JR during this match. He was especially red-assed about DX. His comments just felt very forced. It's like he was just looking for reasons to bitch about them instead of calling the match. DOA ended up pulling the old switcheroo with the Nazi fuck brothers, getting Billy Gunn with a surprise roll-up to get the pin and the win. And that's it. I don't know what the value of having LOD 2000 there was. They did nothing. I don't know what the point of this match was. Overall, I was just left a bit confused. Ryan, what'd you think of this?
The best part was definitely Outlaws coming out on these little scooters, making fun of the DOA Titan bikes, who did not come out on their bikes. I only assume because they're still soaked in piss, so they didn't want to jump on them. And then LOD 2000 is here to have their backs. Who cares? Why are both of these teams still feuding with DX? JR says maybe DOA deserves a chance at the tag titles. No, they don't. JR. Sorry. The King corrects JR, saying no, they deserve to be on welfare, out of a job. Yes, I agree with King. They need to be out of a fucking job. And for some bizarre reason, DOA picks up a cheap win here, which means this feud is going to continue even further. This isn't the end of it. Like fuck me.
Yeah.
Yeah, this kind of justifies what I said earlier about the Funks trying to desperately inject some kind of new tag team into the division because we have garbage like this that they're trying to push every week.
Yeah.
And DX, talk about deflating DX tonight. We were excited about DX in the invasion segment, and now it's just like, Brian, just hit it right now. Ruined. Fucking ruined.
Yeah.
But we can look back on all that stuff earlier and have a good time and laugh and forget about this part of DX's evening. They're operating at a very high level, similar to Steve Austin, but they're not quite there yet. So they need some better angles and feuds than the shit that we got tired of, like Owen Hart and DOA and fucking LOD 2000. Like, they need something better to work with.
We didn't slow down coming out of that because we went straight into our next match. The Undertaker defeats Barry Windham with Jim Cornette by pinfall in 59 seconds. And by God, Barry Windham is our jobber of the week. Take it, Ryan.
Thank you, Bartlett. Yes, Barry Windham is our jobber of the week. Barry Windham was born Barry Clinton Windham on July 4th, 1960 in Sweetwater, Texas. He was trained by his father, Robert Windham, better known as Blackjack Mulligan, and Harley Race, and made his in-ring debut on November 27th, 1979 against J.J. Dillon when Barry was only 19 years old. He has gone by the ring names Dirty Yellow Dog, Blackjack Mulligan Jr., Blackjack Windham, the Widowmaker, the Lone Wolf, the Stalker, and Barry Windham. Now, I know Barry Windham getting Jobber of the Week may ruffle some feathers, especially with some of our older listeners, but this is just about his time in the WWF in the last couple years right now, and we are fully aware of his achievements elsewhere, and although I don't typically spend a ton of time talking about Jobber's time outside of the WWF, at the end of this segment, I will run through some of his WCW NWA accolades, so forewarned. From 1979 to 1984, Barry wrestled for Eddie Graham's NWA Championship Wrestling from Florida. And in 84, Barry formed a successful and popular tag team with real-life brother-in-law Mike Rotunda. After winning the NWA Florida Tag Team Championships together 3 times, they caught the attention of the WWF. In October of 1984, Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda were signed by the WWF to wrestle together as a babyface tag team named the US Express. They made their debut on November 17, 1984's edition of Maple Leaf Wrestling, defeating Muhammad Saad and Bobby Bass. They quickly made an impact in the WWF Tag Team division, defeating the North-South Connection, a team made up of Dickie Murdoch and Adrian Adonis, for their first WWF Tag Team Championship on January 21st, 1985. The U.S. Express dropped the titles to the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov at the first ever WrestleMania before winning them back from the same team on July 13th's edition of Championship Wrestling, which they then lost to the Dream Team, Greg Valentine and Brutus the Barber Beefcake, on August 24th, 1995, before Barry Windham's departure from his first stint at the WWF. Barry spent 86 back at NWA's Florida promotion feuding with Ric Flair before following Flair in 97 to North Carolina, joining NWA's Jim Crockett Promotions, where they continued to feud until 88 when Windham turned heel and joined Flair's famous Four Horsemen faction. In March of 89, his contract expired with JCP and Barry once again joined the WWF. In June of 1998, he debuted as the Widowmaker. Despite the nickname change, Windham's image and character did not, still portraying a heel cowboy-type character. He went undefeated for 4 months and was going to be on Randy Savage's Survivor Series team when he was hastily replaced by Earthquake after Windham left the company in October due to his family's involvement in a counterfeit scandal. I looked into this briefly, and his dad and brother were arrested for trying to sell more than $1 million in counterfeit bills to some undercover Secret Service agents. Apparently, the WWF did not like that look and released him immediately.
Jesus. So his dad, as in Blackjack Mulligan?
Blackjack Mulligan, yeah.
Jesus. Yep. I've never heard that before.
I didn't either. In 1990, Barry returned to WCW, where he stayed until 94 when Windham suffered a major knee injury. Before his injury, he was planned to follow brother-in-law Mike Rotunda back to the WWF and form New Money Inc., managed by Ted DiBiase, where they were going to feud with the team of Lex Luger and Tatanka. However, his knee injury forced him out of the deal with the WWF, and Tatanka turned heel and replaced Windham in the feud with Luger, causing the greatest heel turn of all time.
Wow.
Yeah, unbelievable. Without Barry's injury, that iconic moment never happens.
Stuffing those counterfeit bills into Lex Luger's mouth.
Yeah, Jesus.
After his knee rehab, Windham did join the WWF in 96, debuting as the Stalker. However, he was clearly not the same wrestler he once was. Originally, it was planned for his debut to be at In Your House Mind Games, where he would start a feud with Wildman Mark Mero, hunting Mero down like wild game. But the angle was abruptly dropped at Mero's request. Instead, Barry debuted at In Your House 11, Buried Alive, where even the announcers quickly dropped the Stalker gimmick, calling him Barry Windham. The Stalker gimmick did not catch on with fans, and he was quickly repackaged as Blackjack Windham with partner Blackjack Bradshaw, forming the New Blackjacks. Outside of their assless chaps, they made zero impact on the tag team division. Barry was then repackaged once again as his old NWA-style Barry Windham, joining Jim Cornette's ill-fated NWA faction with other NWA has-beens. Predictably, this also did not work for the fans, which brings us to where we are right now. Windham's last WWF TV appearance was a loss to Vader on May 11th, 1998 Monday Night Raw. Barry returned to WCW for just 1 year before entering indie circuit purgatory for the next decade. Barry Windham's last match was on February 26th, 2010, defeating the team of Kenny Kendrick and Sin Baha with partner James Neal. Barry Clinton Windham's record is 1,634 wins, 787 losses, and 215 draws. And as I promised, though I skimmed over a ton of his NWA and WCW success, here is a list of some of his accomplishments that don't involve the last couple years. In NWA and WCW, he was the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, a United States Heavyweight Champion, a Television Champion, a Western States Heritage Champion, a 4-time NWA WCW Tag Team Champion, and a NWA United States Tag Team Champ. In the WWF, he was a 2-time Tag Team Champ with brother-in-law Mike Rotunda, and Windham was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame twice. First in 2012 as a member of the Four Horsemen, and then again in 2024 as a member of the U.S. Express. So clearly, Barry Windham is a legend in the business, and once upon a time he had great success. However, on April 27th, 1998, losing to The Undertaker in 10 seconds or less, he most certainly is a jobber.
Yes.
Yes. My God. And thank you for that from those of us who have been living under a rock.
Yes.
I just want to say thank you.
Yeah. A fun fact, the I Am a Real American song was not originally used for Hulk Hogan. It was originally
the US Express.
Used for, the U.S. Express, Windham, and Rotunda.
Wow.
I just love the idea of the son of a known counterfeiter coming in as Money Inc.
Yeah.
or supposed to be coming in as Money Inc.
Yep.
That's wild. That's crazy shit there. Okay. Well, thank you, Ryan. Illuminating as always. In the match here, just within the opening moves, Barry Windham looked like absolute shit.
Well, at least now we know he had a serious knee injury, too, and that kind of explains why he's a shell of his former self now.
Yeah. Well, here in 98, he looked like absolute shit.
Yeah, no, he does.
The chokeslam from Undertaker did get some great height to it, and then the tombstone, and Barry Windham got sent straight to jobber hell in this. It wasn't over there, though. The Undertaker got a microphone and addressed Kane. Taker said last night's Inferno match wasn't the end. It's just the beginning. Come on down. There was a little bit of time with some filler material before the lights finally went out and Hellfire and Brimstone erupted. Kane's right arm was covered in a weeping bandage. It was pretty gnarly looking. Paul Bearer had the microphone and laid out a great promo, adding more backstory to Kane and Kane's history with burn treatments as a child. He's experienced those. And we did end up getting a really poorly timed commercial break in there, but it was revealed that Paul Bearer is Kane's father. Thank you. Jerry Lawler made sure to emphasize for us all that means that Paul Bearer had sex with The Undertaker's mother.
Just to clarify.
Just in case you were wondering.
If you wondered how babies happen.
And that's it for this. So, Joe, we've got a fresh perspective on the greatest story ever told here. Get us going on it, please.
Yeah, well, science has come a long way, but it is alleged that Paul Bearer had sex with The Undertaker's mom. Yes. But this is a great way to kick off the war zone, having the dead man come out here.
Squash a jobber. And
yeah. JR reminds us that The Undertaker has defeated Kane twice now. He's 2-0 against his brother. So is Kane a jobber too?
Well, I kind of warned a few months ago that he may have to take that moniker someday.
Yeah. He might be a
biggest
jobber
of all time, really.
This match went exactly like it should have in my mind. I thought it was perfect. What is it? It was again 10 seconds or something?
Technically 59, but yeah, 10 seconds of actual action.
Yeah, and Paul Bearer was fantastic here. Again, we're just throwing another piece of story into this angle. It's one of those things that you just have to milk it for everything that you can get out of it. Now we're learning that Paul is Kane's dad, which is just fantastic because they're just going to give us more on that in the weeks to come.
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. The match was perfect. He came out here and squashed Barry Windham, sent him straight to hell. That's what we want to see out of The Undertaker at this point. And after that, this was the Paul Bearer show. He cuts a hell of a promo here, dropping all sorts of nuggets. He blames The Undertaker, saying that he was the one with that poor 3-year-old child after he lost his parents at the hospital. He was there when they scraped the dead skin from his body. He was getting real graphic about it. Just saying after he tasted his own blood that he knew something had to change. And then he drops the ultimate swerve here. Just complete soap opera shit. That he is Kane's real father. But who cares? This is a soap opera I'm invested in. I've been loving this story for over 6 months now. Hook it to my veins.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty stoked about it. We're that much closer to one of my favorite scenes and all of the attitude there. Rooting and grunting. Yeah. All right, let's move it along. Next up, Kevin Kelly was backstage with Goldust and Luna Vachon to ask about Goldust's upcoming title shot. Dude Love ended up attacking Goldust there. That was more or less it. In the arena, DX came back out again, and the hue of JR's red ass deepened by 3 shades yet again. In short, Try is hot. His buzz got killed, and he laid out the European title on the mat in the ring to anyone in the back willing to come out and take him on. One of the Nazi fuck brothers stepped out, and I groaned, but that groan immediately turned into popping my ass off as Dan the Beast Severn came jogging out in his suit. What a fucking swerve. I never expected, even though I remember watching this episode live, I never would have expected Dan Severn. I loved Dan Severn here. Cornette was trying to talk Severn out of it. At one point, Cornette slapped Severn, and Severn just immediately lost his shit and destroyed Jim Cornette there in the ring. That ended that bit of business. But then we had Michael Cole backstage with Stone Cold Steve Austin to talk about that upcoming title match. The bottom line there is that it doesn't matter what Stone Cold has to do. He is going to fight and win and put as many gray hairs on Vince McMahon's knotted up head as he can. That was followed by another Val Venis video. The movie name drop here was The Big Valboski. And Jesus Christ, Val Venis is creepy as hell. This video was especially creepy. The longer this goes on, the more I'm getting a little turned off. Just the constant grunting and moaning. Yeah. Jesus. Marvelous Mark Mero was out to the ring next. Unfortunately, he also brought out his disproportionately artificial wife, Sable. I'm pretty sure her head is wider than her hips. Things kept going downhill as Sable got on a microphone and threatened to put Mark Mero in his place. Things quickly turned into yet another Greek tragedy as Mero said, "What are you going to do? Beat me up?" Sable officially issued the challenge. Give her 2 weeks and she will humiliate Mark Mero in front of the entire world. Her words. We got, after that, another backstage view of Vince McMahon prepping Jerry Briscoe for the upcoming match. So, guys, a lot of things to talk about in this segment. It was chock full of mini updates, not the least of which is, I'm wondering now, has Mark Mero's Jobber of the Week segment been scheduled? Is it happening? Are we there? Oh my God, is it happening? Is it happening?
Oh, it's about to happen.
So, Ryan, as the president of the Carpenters Union, I would like you to weigh in on this segment first, please.
Sure. I'm going to start with Kevin Kelly with Goldust backstage, and the thing that stuck out to me is it appears Goldust is no longer the artist formerly known as Goldust anymore. They didn't call him that. They're calling him Goldust. He's back to the normal Goldust outfit and wig. I think we're just dropping that like it's never happened, and we're just going with Goldust, which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
DX comes out, and I enjoyed this segment, especially because it was Dan Severn that came down. But I was scratching my head after we came back from break and saying, well, what happened to Triple H's challenge? Like, where's the match? If not with Dan the Bee Severn, with somebody else, we just forgot about it. We move on. Stone Cold's promo, good fiery promo out of Stone Cold. I mean, he never disappoints when you put the mic in front of him, and this was another case of that. Val Venis, him dropping the Big Val Boski, that's a moniker he's going to use time and time again moving forward. So once Val Venis comes, that will be a name he uses more moving forward. Then Mark Mero, the foreshadowing of his Jobber of the Week, which we've been talking about for years at this point. But it's finally on the horizon. I'm ready to pen that one out whenever it comes.
Yeah, the attack by Dude Love on Goldust was nice to see. I like that they have that little story going here still with Dude Love being pissed that he's not getting that opportunity. And the DX segment with Try coming out here saying that he's pissed, and he's pissed with DOA, so who cares? It's already weak, in my opinion. He puts up the European title that nobody cares about. So again, it's weak. Dan Severn runs out, and I'm thinking, okay, business is about to pick up. You know, this is your chance. Again, I keep saying it every week. This is a guy they're selling as a trained killer, and he beats up Jim Cornette, and then that's it. Like, what the fuck? This was an opportunity to have him basically squash Triple H, win the title, the European title, and then get a feud going there. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. Now, I guess Dan Severn's probably a babyface because he just beat the shit out of Jim Cornette. But I guess we'll see what happens next week with that. And then Michael Cole with Austin in the back, just a typical Stone Cold interview, nothing fancy there. And then we get to ladies. But he's in the car for this one. There was a lot of moaning, and I thought, oh, please tell me a girl's head is going to pop up from down below. And sure enough, that's what happened.
I don't know, what was she looking for? Some change or something?
The keys or change or whatever, yeah.
Why don't you take another look?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's super creepy and fantastic. And then Mark Mero, he's gonna get whoppered here real soon, and
highway to Jobberville.
Yeah, this is not looking good. Not looking good.
Mark Mero, this is your life.
Yeah. Jesus. I thought we had a lot more time before we got there, but clock's ticking, boys. 2 weeks.
Tick tock, tick tock.
All right. So let's go then into our final match of the night. Steve Austin versus Goldust with Luna Vachon ends in a no contest in 8 minutes and 40 seconds with Jerry Briscoe as the special guest referee and Stone Cold Steve Austin retaining the WWF Championship as a result. I loved Jerry Briscoe explaining all the rules to everyone at the start of this in that accent of his. That was great. And things got going. Vince McMahon also came out to be the timekeeper, holding the belt and waiting for the chance to signal the match. And he looked so proper there, holding the little hammer up, the belt on his lap.
He had a little pep in his step there for this one.
The counts were a little slow from Jerry at the start, but the work in the ring was good. Goldust was looking good against Austin, and I just sat back and enjoyed this because, again, the action was solid. The story was solid. Even Jerry Briscoe and the way that he was acting in the ring there, he was solid. The way he was officiating, this was all working. No surprise, Jerry Briscoe has been part of the wrestling business for God knows how long at this point, and he knows what's up, so it makes sense that this is all working. We kept getting picture-in-picture of Vince McMahon for reactions to the match. And when we finally got to the stunner, Briscoe was slow to lay out, slow to count, and before he got to 3, developed some kind of issue with his eyeball that required attention. Before that could get resolved, though, Dude Love ran in and attacked Austin, throwing Austin out of the ring while Goldust was left laying unconscious on the mat. And in the final swerve of the night, when Austin was attacking Dude Love and Briscoe was attempting to break them up, Vince McMahon used the championship belt to take a swing at Austin. Austin ducked it. McMahon took out Jerry Briscoe. Jerry even got color on that. JR lost his shit. And that is where things more or less ended up as we faded to black. What a finish to this episode. I don't just mean the action. I love the formatting here. We've talked about it before, but this was a great example of like one big story that starts and concludes in one episode while all of the ongoing stories get freshened up incrementally. And I'm saying that as a viewer at home. With the Titantron there, the live crowd, they're now privy to all of these backstage maneuverings, and they are getting a complete chapter there when they buy their ticket. It's just with episodes like this, things are rolling hot in the WWF. So, Ryan, please get us going on our final match and the way that Raw ended tonight.
Well, the first thing that I want to point out is these changes that we've talked about Raw that's happening to Raw over the last few months. And here's a great example. We got a heavyweight title match to finish out this Raw with the biggest star in the business right now headlining it.
Great call.
That is something completely unheard of a year ago. Stone Cold would have maybe been at the arena on a video a year ago, and that's it. He wouldn't have got in the ring. He wouldn't have done anything. So that is a huge change. And I thought putting him in there with Goldust was a good move. It was something you knew Stone Cold was probably going to come out ahead, but these two guys work together pretty well. They've worked with each other for a long time over at WCW, so there's no huge shock there. And this story continues to deliver every time it's on the screen. And at the end of this, it goes even a little further. Gerald Briscoe takes one on the head, little bit of blood from him, and Stone Cold, against all odds, still finds a way to give Vince McMahon the middle finger and walk away with the belt. The crowd's going crazy as we close it out. They know what they're doing here. They found a formula that works, and it can't do any wrong right now. They're firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, this was going into this match, one of those situations where a year or two ago, we wouldn't be that excited about knowing that there's going to be shenanigans in this match.
Yeah.
But because of who's involved, it's perfectly fine with us. We knew there was going to be shenanigans, and it was going to be probably pretty entertaining. And I also have to admit that before this started, I liked the stipulation here with Gerald Briscoe that Austin is not allowed to lay a finger on him. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a good stipulation. Again, very believable, just good stuff to add into it. And I laughed so hard when Vince McMahon came skipping down the entrance ramp. So happy that this was happening, that he was going to screw Austin out of the title.
Like a schoolgirl.
Yes, just really good. And Jerry Briscoe is amazing in this match with his counts and just general stooge behavior during the match. He was just really doing a great job here. And JR doing a great job on commentary. He said these are dubious circumstances for Steve Austin. And he was just really selling that hard the whole time. And the King was doing amazing too with his ass kissing of the boss, just nonstop ass kissing of his boss, which, look, we're all working adults and we know there are people who kiss the boss's ass and it's annoying as fuck. And that's what Jerry Lawler is doing here. That's what Jerry Briscoe is doing. So it's really entertaining and realistic. Man, when Vince tagged Jerry Briscoe with that belt, I popped hard. I loved that. This was just extremely well booked, and all of the top-notch talent was involved, and they all executed. Austin, Goldust, Mick Foley, Jerry Briscoe. Vince McMahon and JR and the King, like everybody involved just knocked it out of the park here. And this show has been on fire ever since WrestleMania. And as much as I loved watching Bret Hart matches and Shawn Michaels matches, they're not missing those guys at all with
No.
with what's going on. And I'm not so sure Austin would be getting as much time as he is if those
Probably
guys were
not.
still there.
Yeah.
So it's funny how those things work out.
Yeah, 100% agreed on that. Great call on a lot of things, both of you guys. It's one of those great examples of you just have so many good things to pick from, so many good things to talk about with episodes like this, with booking like this, with superstars like this. In that spirit, let's take it on over to highlights and lowlights. Joe, why don't you take that first?
You know what? I'm going to just say that, well, my low light is the fact that DOA is getting any time on television. I'll just get that out of the way. Because for the most part, I thought this was an awesome episode of Raw. And for my highlight, as much as I really loved the last match and just everything leading up to it, I have to go with my highlight being DX's invasion of WCW because it was just such a legendary segment. And back then, it was realistic. I actually thought that maybe there would be an interaction between DX and WCW.
Yeah, start off, I agree with you on the highlight. I'm giving it to the DX invasion of WCW, not to take anything away from the Austin McMahon in this final match, but it's so iconic, that DX scene of them pounding on the gates, and it is hard to translate to rewatching it today, but if you just remember back to watching it live, what an amazing moment this was, because at this point in time, we're switching back and forth between these two companies when something gets shitty. So this was almost a moment where you're going to WCW just to see, are they going to react to it? Are they even talking about it? Like, this was a big moment that rewatching it today, I think loses a little bit of that luster, but it still works even rewatching it. So that had to be the highlight. And my low light is going right along with you as well, Joe. DOA, and I'm going to add LOD just because they came out here with DOA.
So I'm actually different than both of you guys on both of my choices here. Like I said, we have such an abundance of things to work with now. Low lights, there was not a lot to choose from. And I'm not saying you guys are wrong necessarily, but for me, my highlight and low light this week were more about gut feelings. And my gut feeling, I had to go with the Headbangers versus Terry Funk and Too Cold Scorpio. That match just didn't fit the rest of the episode. As shitty as DOA was, they were in a program with DX and it fit. It sucked, but it fit. The Headbangers and Terry Funk and Too Cold Scorpio just didn't at all. Highlight, again, a lot to choose from, but I ended up going with Dan the Beast Severn showing up to accept Triple H's challenge. So obviously that didn't go anywhere, but just the fact that Severn came out, how he handled that, marching straight down, taking his tie off while he's walking, it surprised the shit out of me. It had me popping, and there was a split second there where in that excited teenage brain that I've got buried way back in there, part of me was like, holy shit, he's gonna smear fucking Triple H in 10 seconds and he's gonna get the title and it's gonna be fucking amazing. And then reality kicked in and I realized, oh no, none of that's gonna happen. But they had me swerved for that split second, and for that split second I was just a total and absolute mark geeking out about what might happen next. That was a really good feeling. Like I was so excited whenever Dan Severn came out. I was like, holy shit, and popping. And so yeah, I had to go with that. It was just such a visceral reaction. Yeah, I made that sound. So, Joe, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around April 27th, 1998 for us?
I do. On April 22nd episode of WCW Thunder, Buff Bagwell broke his freaking neck.
Oh.
He crushed 4 vertebrae in his neck. The taping had to take a 30-minute break so that they could get Bagwell the proper care and get him out of the ring to start working on him. Adam Copeland, he is still getting tryout matches at these WWF shows. And tonight he worked as a heel against Darren Drozdoff.
Oh.
And Copeland has a manager for tonight's match, and it is the Jackal.
Oh.
So that's unfortunate.
Speaking of, we haven't seen Kurgan in quite a while.
I was just about to say, like,
or Jackal,
at least,
yeah,
at least they are not on our screens.
Right.
Like they're slowly getting moved off of the program, it seems like.
And speaking of Adam Copeland, you guys probably remember he's one of the standouts from Dory Funk's wrestling camp that he has going on. Well, that Dory Funk is still operating that camp, and there's a standout there right now named Aaron O'Grady. Do either of you know who Aaron O'Grady is? Spent a short time in ECW. He is now in Dory Funk's camp and appears to be the best wrestler in the camp, according to Dave Meltzer. Aaron O'Grady is otherwise known as Crash Holly.
Oh, no shit. Huh.
Wow.
So Crash Holly getting some attention at the camp, so we might see him sometime soon. And that is all this week.
All right. Well, thank you, Joseph.
Hopefully he stays away from the Snowball Derby.
Yeah. Illuminating as always. And that's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add at gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and tell all of your friends to tune in to the most catastrophic Monday Night Raw review podcast on the airwaves. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on May 4th, 1998, with matches featuring Savio Vega, Kane, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.